All right, everybody, a big question for the financial markets right now. Will the European credit crisis lead to another global recession like the last credit crisis did, the one that started up on our own shores? Now, joining us right now is David Levy of the Jerome Levy Forecasting Center. Forecasting in David's blood. He is a third-generation economist with over 30 years of forecasting experience. And right now, he's saying that the prospect for a U.S. recession next year have edged up from a toss-up to around 60%. David, great to have you back with Matt and me. That's a big move up.
Well, we had it at about 50-50, so it's not. I mean, there's still hope of avoiding, but the problem is we have a lot of questions about what is going to be done policy-wise in Europe, what's going to be done about fiscal policy in the United States, to the extent that the Chinese real estate bubble holds up for another year or so.
The list is just growing and growing and growing.
There are just a lot of questions which are certainly beyond our ability to call right now, but. It's going to be a close brush. The U.S. has been powered by a number of things that have given a nice shot up over the last year and a half, but they're kind of at the petering out point now.
You're basically saying you want Ben to stay in the helicopter, right? I mean, your concern is that Washington is shifting from fiscal stimulus to pulling back and starting to get concerned about deficits. What's your response to the European response to their debt crisis? I mean, do you think that they've done enough? Their TARP 2 was larger than ours, right?
Well, first of all, just as for here quickly, I think Ben Bernanke can get one of those in-air refuelers to come by his helicopter, because he's not going to put it down for a long, long time. In Europe, there are two key things you need in any economy that's going through basically implosion in private balance sheets, whether it's slow motion or fast motion. One is you need an effective lender of last resort, and the other is you need to have fiscal stimulus to come in to support the economy while that happens. That's why all over the world deficits have popped up, because economies are weak. In Europe, they have done a number of things. They have the TARP type money, but there are a lot of big questions about, for example, who's going to bail out a bank in a country that is already having to take advantage of those funds. The ECB did not step in to save banks last time. It was the individual countries. That's why Ireland's in so much trouble itself now. So. And there are just so many political questions about what's going to happen, and is somebody going to be viewed as almost about to drop out of the Eurozone anyway at some point? And, so there could be some real lags, and there are questions. Hopefully, that's one of the big ifs about the outlook. The European Central Bank is going to be bold and have support of the member countries if there is an emergency, and just make sure it is dealt with.
David, Fed's Bullard came out today basically saying that what happens in Europe, it's not really going to impact the United States. He's wrong?
I mean, this is this is the latest version of decoupling. Decoupling is a lovely term.
It didn't happen back in 2007.
First of all, the U.S. is not in such wonderful shape to start with. We're going through our own balance sheet adjustment, and our fiscal boost is about to start to at least level off. Our spurt from consumers has largely been catching up from the people who were afraid to buy last year, and there's signs that may even be starting to turn now. Housing isn't coming back, non-residential buildings going down, et cetera, et cetera. As far as our relationship with Europe, clearly there's financial contagion. Look what's happening to LIBOR spreads. Everybody's nervous.
We talked about that earlier.
And by the way, the European problem is not just a sovereign debt problem. Their economies are in bad shape. They're adopting Hoover-esque policies for the entire Eurozone. And on top of that, the banks have all kinds of loans that they haven't really acknowledged being a problem, but they're going to have to eventually with the Eastern European real estate.
Well, as Mark Faber says, he says they're already gone, those banks. I mean, talking with Faber earlier, he was concerned about the U.S. response to the crisis with the fiscal stimulus and then the ensuing clampdown in regulatory policies, and now the tax increases on the horizon. Do you think he's wrong in saying that this is a bad response to a fiscal crisis?
Well, let me just address it, because I'm not sure exactly what he said, but the response to as far as the regulatory issues, I don't think are nearly as big as a lot of people in the financial sector are making them out to be. They're going to impede banks' ability to do some things, but the major problems has to do with banks not wanting to lend because they don't have enough capital, and then too many of their customers have way too much risk already and can't really, so there's a lack of opportunity to expand debt in an economy that already has too much. I do think that the danger of having some of these tax increases, the tax cuts expire, and it sounds like most likely, and we don't know for sure, it'll be the high-end tax brackets cuts that are allowed to expire, while the others maybe don't, but we'll have to see what that is. That is clearly another blow to the economy. It doesn't matter which level, it's going to hurt. And I think right now, the European problems are largely going to depend on the Europeans to deal with them, though. And that's beyond our control.
All right. Is it really, though? Because when that $1 trillion plan was put into place for those European banks, I mean, basically we had a guest who came on and said, we see Timothy Geithner's fingerprints, handprints all over it. I mean, the U.S. have got to be involved, considering we just lived through our own crisis. They've got to be involved.
Well, they certainly missed
it.
They forgot to get the part about actually having a fiscal stimulus. Instead, they said this is a great time to raise taxes and cut spending. And that may sound good for a Greece that's got, horrendous problems collecting taxes and so forth. But for the entire Eurozone, whether it's, Spain is cutting 5 percentage points worth of GDP out of their deficit, at least they're trying to, by 2011. Germany wants to reduce its deficit. Germany is the only country that's shown any real life, or maybe France a little bit, largely because they've been running surpluses with these other countries in trouble.
But why not just let Greece default? I mean, do you support the idea of what seems like solving problems of debt with just more debt?
The answer to those two questions is different for me. I do think that it is appropriate in a private economy that is going through a collapse in balance sheets for the central government to provide some of its own debt to replace some of the private debt. That's how you contain a depression, prevent a disaster. However, I think Greece is probably a lost cause in trying to keep it into the, as far as being a member of the Eurozone. I think it's going to have to come out eventually, and I don't know a nice way to do it.
All right. Hey, David, it's always a pleasure having you on. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
David Levy from the Jerome Levy Forecasting Center. We're